depending on what your evaluation shows. You need to go for a drug and alcohol evaluation. For instance, I went to Conifer Park. They did my evaluation. I went to intensive outpatient for probably, by the time I was finished with all of it, it was a year. But after 3 months of sobriety, I was eligible to apply with professional assistance program. My license was given back to me. The permission was given back to me to go back to work. I went back to work with restrictions. I couldn't work night shift. I wasn't supposed to float to other floors.
Under heavy direct supervision.
Oh yeah. No narcotic access when I first went back to work. The place I was employed at took me back. They held my position and they took me back. They were supportive. They were very supportive. I had to do random observed urines for drug screens. It started out 3 days a week, and that was a 2-year period. However, now it's a 5-year period for nurses who enter sobriety through that program. It's a 5-year period of you have to stay in the program and be followed. Towards, and it kind of dwindled. My urines got down to, before I was discharged from the program, once a month. Most places you can do them right at your employee health, at your job, or towards the end, when I had switched jobs and there was nowhere for me to do it at work, I had a lady that came to the house. She'd call me on the phone, say, I'm coming over to get a urine. I'd be there in 20 minutes. She'd come over, she'd get it, the end of it. So I was observed. I had to go every 3 to 6 months, depending, for an interview. You sit in front of a panel, and it can be a little intimidating at first, but you know what? Those people are there to help you. Some of them are nurses. Some of them are social workers. Some of them... And PAP isn't just for nurses, it's for anybody that holds a license from the New York State Education Department.
So who else would that apply to?
Chiropractors, veterinarians, massage therapists, pharmacists, any type of nurse, registered nurse, licensed practical nurse, anybody that holds a license. Okay. They govern, I think it's 40-some different licenses. Wow. CPAs, construction, things like that. So I had to follow up, do the panel meetings, and then I graduated. And I had to get letters of support from employment, from peers, it's a process. It really is, but the process was so warm and so helpful, and there was never judgment. There was never, even when I went back to work, am I going to say it was perfect? No, there's always somebody in every group that's going to say something about you when you're not looking. And you know what? They're ignorant.
And that's probably the person that's...
Yeah, that's the person that's got their own skeletons in their closet that need to reach out for some help. And but never, when I went back to work, other nurses had to pass my narcotics for me, so they knew something was up, but it was never fully disclosed. I disclosed it myself. I had comfort in that. The support I got from my coworkers was amazing. I never once was made to feel like, oh, the junkie nurse over here that I've got to pass her meds for. They were like, hey, good for you, Stan. We're glad you're back and you're healthy. And they were always very helpful. And also, when I was in PAP, there's another group called SPAN, and that's a peer assistance network. And it's kind of like a blended AA-NA group for nurses.
Okay. Yeah, no, there's for example, there's 12-step groups specifically for law enforcement. Right. And that was my question. Are there support groups specifically after treatment for people in the healthcare, so they don't feel like if they go into a meeting and say, hey, my name is Sandy, I'm an alcoholic and an addict, and I'm also a nurse, the red lights come on. Next time you go to the doctors. Yeah. And there is, and SPAN was a wonderful group. It's all nurses. Not everybody, when I went, not everybody in the group actually had been through the process I had been through. We had one person who was actively still using and just struggling to try to get clean, but didn't want to go through the process. And it really just wasn't working for that person. And that person ended up going through the same process I had, because really you need to take that time to not work. It ended up being 4.5 months where I didn't work, and the bills waited. And everything waits. Anything you put in front of your recovery, you lose.
Exactly. Everything waits. And there's always, oh, I'm not going to work. Where am I going to get money? You know what? You can get a job at Walmart temporarily. Sure. There's just nothing more important than taking that time for yourself to get sober.
How long have you been back to work in the nursing field?
I went back to work. I got sober in February of 2006. I went back to work in July of 2006.